Want to 10x your success? Here's how. I changed the destiny of my family name, and you could change the destiny of your family name also. 2 words: proximity and value. What do I mean by that? How is proximity and value going to accelerate my success? Here's the thing with proximity. Proximity just means in nearness to. So who are you hanging out with, essentially? Are you hanging out with guys that are selling drugs? Then you're more apt to be selling drugs. Are you hanging out in a gang and terrorizing people? Then you're going to terrorize people. Are you hanging out with people that just watch Sunday football and talk about stats all week and do fantasy football? Then you're more apt to be doing that. Are you hanging out with people that are writing vision statements, creating vision boards, and building their skill set and adding value to the world? Then you're more apt to be doing that. It's all in who you have proximity to. Value. How are you adding value? Adding value is essentially how you grab proximity in some instances. I'll talk about how I gained proximity through the value that I was adding. Let's go to the fire department for a second. When I was a police officer and I wanted to go into the fire department, I had a friend of mine that essentially was my mentor. He had taken the same path I had taken. He was a transit cop, and then he became a fireman. I was a city cop, and then I became a fireman. The only difference is the transit cop worked in the subway. Back in the 90s, the 80s and the 90s, there were different departments for transit cops and city cops. It was basically, you just stayed in the subway and we just stayed on the streets. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, we became firemen. Now, he became a fireman before me, and I simply just followed his path. Success leaves clues. I had proximity to him, and because I had the proximity to him, I knew what was going to be expected of me when I put my application in to be a fireman. When I took the written test, when I took the physical had very specific activities on it so that it would test fire skills. Dragging a person out of a building, stretching a hose line, getting low into the tunnel, forcing a door, pulling a ceiling. So he gave me tips on how to perform all of those things. The biggest tip he gave me was going through the tunnel. When we were dragging the hose through the tunnel, he was like, you have an advantage because you're smaller. He was much bigger. He was like 6'2", 6'3", and I'm 5'5". But he said, when you go through that tunnel, make sure that you position yourself between the wall and the hose so that when you make that turn, that hose doesn't get hung up on that corner. $1 million tip. Guys were failing the physical because they allowed the hose to get hung up. The hose butt would get hung up on the corner and they wouldn't be able to make that turn. And that's it. Like, if you run out of time, you run out of time. My proximity gave me the knowledge to be able to negotiate that. When I was in the fire department, I went to a firehouse that was really slow. And I was on the lieutenant's exam, and I didn't have much time on the job. Remember, when I took the lieutenant's exam, I only had 3 months on the job. It was a city rule that I was allowed to do it because of my PD time, but I only had 3 months on the job. When I passed that exam, a fireman in my present firehouse said, you can't stay here. You're not going to be exposed to enough of the job. And he made a phone call to kind of sound the alarm. He made a phone call to sound the alarm to say, listen, we have to get this guy to a firehouse that's going to give him a diverse knowledge of the job. And I went from a firehouse that only had PDs, private dwellings, personal residence, your typical house, right? So I went from PDs to a firehouse in Manhattan that actually had a diverse response area. So I had subways. I had Amtrak. I had, and Amtrak's important because of the catenary lines, those electrical lines overhead. I had brownstones, I had high-rises, I had fireproof, I had non-fireproof, I had private dwellings, I had row frames. I had a little bit of everything so that I could see what these buildings look like. I could see how to operate in these buildings. I could physically operate in these buildings. You can't go lead men if you don't have any experience whatsoever. So because of my proximity to him, and because of my attitude, we'll talk about that in a little bit, he put his name on the line and he said, listen, he made phone calls. He knew how the department worked. I had no clue how the department worked. He knew how the department worked, so he made phone calls and he had me transferred to a house that I could gain experience in. That was huge because of that proximity. Second time proximity really, really helped me. COVID. Let's go to COVID. Everybody remembers COVID. Everybody knows how COVID absolutely crushed them. Everybody got crushed by COVID. It's just how resilient were you and how you could bounce back. My business was open 9 o'clock in the morning, closed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was regulated by the Department of Human Services. So I was regulated by the state. The state said when I could conduct business. Kind of like having a liquor license at a bar. Now, all of a sudden, I have a team of 25 individuals that I had to lay off because I don't know when I'm opening up. The state won't tell me when I'm opening up. The world's on fire. It's complete chaos. Every time you watch the news, somebody, like the death count's going up. Like it was just complete chaos. Everybody knows how that felt. I now have a business that is gone, essentially, is gone. My proximity to my mentor at the time got me through COVID. Not only did it get me through COVID, but it gave me the courage and the confidence to sign a lease and double my footprint. I doubled the footprint of my business. I doubled the amount of families I could help. I doubled the amount of kids that I could help. All without knowing when I was going to reopen and how much staff and how many customers were actually going to come back. I doubled my footprint, but was I going to get the customers to come back? Remember, this is 2020. March of 2020, COVID hits. I'm closed. I didn't reopen my doors till June. Are those people going to come back? There was a lot of controversy back then, right? My mentor told me, put the blinders on. Just keep moving forward. It's going to be okay. You're going to come out of this. You will reopen. Just stay the course. And in that, he told me about his experience back in the 2008 real estate crash and how his business went from, and I'm just making numbers up here, but his business went from $100,000 a month to $25,000 a month. And how he took that big of a hit and he had to figure things out. He had to go out and innovate. Through hearing his tribulations and the struggles that he had and seeing that he was successful again, gave me the staying power to stay the course, to put the blinders on, to not let all of the chaos that was going on in the world affect me. I couldn't control what was happening there. I could only control that, yes, I was prepared to reopen my doors, and when given permission to, when the state reinstituted my license, that I could do so hitting the ground running. That's what I had to focus on during COVID. And in doing so, because of my proximity to him and because of his experience, I was able to double my footprint. I was able to take over the property next door to mine the unit next door to mine, that was a gym. The gym ended up going out of business, and I was able to sign the lease on that unit also. So now I had 2 side-by-side units that were about the same size. And I doubled like that. Real estate, because of my proximity, because I sought out proximity to individuals that were buying multifamily real estate, I then had the courage and the confidence that I would be able to buy that multifamily real estate. And I literally changed the lineage of my family name. We went from people that just kind of like getting by to people that had multiple streams of income. I taught my son's in the deal with me. I taught him what multiple streams of income are. Because I was able to have that proximity to individuals that now have, my mentor in real estate has, 2,500 doors, somewhere around there. Another proximity, insurance. I now purchase this multifamily property, and the insurance company, I own it a year now, the insurance company comes and says, you're in a coastal area, we're not writing in coastal areas anymore, you need to find a new insurance company. I'm like, what? My broker tells me, oh yeah, I got you, don't worry about it. With a week left until my policy expires, my broker comes back to me, he's like, it's going to be $25,000 a year. On an 8-plex? No, thank you. Now I have 5 days to find insurance. I went to my proximity. I went to my network because I added value to that network, because I built relationships in that network. All I had to do was pick up my phone, and I had like 3 to 5. It was definitely 3. I had phone calls to make of insurance brokers, and those insurance brokers, eventually, I found insurance. If not for that proximity, that would have had a completely different result. So how do you gain proximity? How did I gain proximity? How can you gain proximity? If you're sitting there and you're saying, yeah, that's fine for you because you have the proximity. I didn't always have the proximity. So what did I do to gain proximity? First, I want to tell you, sorry about that, something's going on out there. First, I want to tell you a story about Joe Fairless. Joe Fairless, by the way, where's his book? Because Joe writes a really good book. Best ever apartment syndication. Joe Fairless was an advertising guy from New York City, and he decided to take on real estate. He became a syndicator. And Joe is sitting doing a presentation at a real estate event, and this is proximity. This is for all of those people. This story right here hammers home the point of proximity and value. This story hammers home the point of, I don't care what your excuse is, get out there and take action. Okay? If you're not going to take action, don't come crying to me. Get out there and take action, because this is an action story. Joe's at an event. He's giving a presentation. He's telling people about real estate and how they can get involved, and how real estate is a good investment. Like, I don't know exactly what the presentation was on, but Joe was giving a presentation. And Joe had made an off-sided comment about how he couldn't figure out this YouTube channel. This is going back a ways now. YouTube was kind of new. And Joe wanted to put out more content on YouTube, but he just couldn't figure it out. See this guy down here? Theo Hicks. Theo Hicks was a nobody. He was just somebody that said, oh, real estate sounds good. Let me go listen to this guy. And Theo hears this. You know what Theo does? Here's the value part, so that I'm abundantly clear. Theo puts together an entire proposal and sends it off to Joe. Joe, this is how I can add value to you. Joe, this is what I can do for you. Joe, I can create videos. I can edit those videos. I can get those videos up, videography, audio. I can handle all of this for you if you just allow me to help you. I'm leaning in because I really want this piece to hammer home. Theo knew nothing about YouTube. That's right. Theo didn't know about YouTube, but he did what I call an AJ. AJ says everything's figure-outable. AJ's my son. He says everything's figure-outable. Theo went out there and did figure-outable. Theo went out there and figured out how to do YouTube, how to upload videos, how to record videos, what worked, what didn't. Do I need to, like, all of this stuff. Theo went out there and he built out his skill set. Joe said, this is miraculous. I want to talk to this guy. Joe reaches out to Theo. They become friends, and now Theo's on the cover of the book because he added value. There's a mentor of mine. I have a mentor, and my mentor tells this story. He tells this story. He was fumbling around. He felt like he was in a dark room. He was just fumbling around. He didn't know what the key to success was. And someone had said to him, just go out and add value to people. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about getting anything in return. Just go out there and add value to people. Just go out there and pour into people. And that's what he did. He put together a social media outline for this business. Listen, I'm seeing this in your business. This is what I suggest. And he just sent it to them. This is what I think you should do. And he sent it to them. And those people took that document and they said, all right, you know what? This guy seems like he might know what he's talking about. I've been thinking about doing this. Let me do these things. And they did the things that were suggested. And their revenue increased. So they said to my present mentor, they said to him, listen, we need you. Can you do more of this? We'd love to hire you. And that's how he got his start. He got his start by just adding value. How can you add value? Well, first, one of the ways I added value was I started a real estate group. Every week, we'd meet at the restaurant and we would just talk real estate. Didn't matter what kind of real estate. Flippers came, multifamily people, mobile home park guys came. We did all of that. It's how I met one of my mentors, the individual that taught me mobile home parks, right? We're out there where I'm doing my presentation on multifamily because I was studying multifamily. I was adding value to people through multifamily. He came and taught me the mobile home park arena. He has close to 1,000 pads. Pace Morby's another guy. Pace Morby did the same thing. You know how Pace Morby got his start? He went out there, he started doing deals in real estate. And he started talking about it. And people were like, how do you do that? And he was like, just come along. Meet me at 123 Mockingbird Lane. You could jump in my car and I'll show you what I do. And that's how Pace Morby got the Pace Morby group got his start. Just by adding value. And now because of that proximity, he taught people. Those people are going out and crushing it. Those people are feeding deals back to him. He's feeding deals to other people. He's collaborating. Collaboration. ABC, right? Always be closing? No, always be collaborating. People think that competition's a bad thing. You don't have to compete, collaborate. I don't compete with anybody. I would so much rather collaborate with you. In any field. Why can't we be friends and help each other out? Because if I prosper, you prosper, we both prosper, we both grow. A rising tide lifts all boats. So you could create an event if you have specialized knowledge in something. Create an event. If you don't have specialized knowledge, create that event and bring specialized knowledge people in, right? You can create a mindset event and bring a speaker in a week. You can create a real estate event. One week, the mobile home park guy comes in. The next week, the CPA comes in. The next week, the bookkeeper comes in. The next week, the flipper. The next week, the contractor. The next week, the sewer guy. It's endless. Add value. If you're adding value, you're building your proximity. You're building your proximity, your success, your fulfillment all increases. Collaboration, not competition. Here's another one of how you build proximity. You don't waste time. You follow up and you don't waste time. Follow up. I gained 2 good mentors through follow-up. One of my mentors is the mentor that taught me mobile home parks, right? He offered me a book to read. I read the book. I went back to him and I said to him, I read that book. This is what I learned. I have a question about this. Now what's next? I can't tell you how many people come up to me and like, how do I get started? How do I get started? How do I get started? I always give them a book to read. That's my first thing. It's easy for me, and we're going to get to why I do the easy thing and don't waste time. It's easy for me to give them a book to test them. I've given the book recommendation hundreds of times. 3 people have reached back out to me. 3 people have followed up. I've done presentation after presentation after presentation. Nobody follows up. The follow-up. 2 ways of following up. The first way, write a thank you. That's it. Hey, Neil, saw your presentation at the Win event. This is what resonated with me. Just wanted to say thanks. Wow. On my end, nobody ever does that, so you're already standing out. Do you have any recommendations of where to start? I'll give you the book. Now, you come back to me. That was a great recommendation. I really liked this. I didn't understand that. But what's next? Follow up. I did this. I have a guy I'm building a friendship, a relationship with right now, and I did exactly this. He came to one of my groups, a group that I belong to, not a group that I run. He came to one of my group. He came to one of the meetings, and he gave a presentation, and he asked volunteers, and I raised my hand, and he gave me suggestions on how to improve, and I simply wrote him an email. Thank you so much. You made suggestions. I made changes. That was the subject line. You made suggestions. I made changes. And the email was very short because in the conversation he was saying how I don't want these verbose emails. It turns me off. I just want to get to the point. I'm busy. And I simply said, you made suggestions. I made changes. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. If I can ever add value to you, and then I listed how I can add value. That goes to not wasting time. Everybody says, or when I was first starting out, the advice I got was, ask how you can add value. That's a bullshit question. Don't ever ask me how you can add value to me. You just gave me another job, something else I have to think about, something else I have to process. If you want to add value to me, true value, listen to what's going on in my life, do a little bit of research, listen to something I say in presentations, find a way that you have a special skill set, and listen, I can add value this way. I can add value here, here, and here. If you ever need one of these three things, keep me in mind. I'd be more than happy to help you. That's how you add value. Eventually, what's going to happen is I'm going to need one of those three, and I'm going to end up reaching out to you. And I'm definitely going to respond to that email. Right? I'm going to respond, thanks so much. I appreciate you thinking about me. I don't need any of those things yet, but if I do, I will surely reach out to you. You're on my radar. You're not falling off. You're there. And then you follow up in a month or two. You could ask me a question, right? I didn't even ask this individual a question, but you could follow that up with a question. Hey, this is how I can add value to you. And by the way, do you have a suggestion on what to read if I want to learn more about the psychology behind the mindset? Sure, no problem. When I was going through, these are a few questions that will help you get the thoughts flowing, right? Because you're sitting there saying, how can I add value? I don't have anything. How could I possibly add value to a guy like Warren Buffett? I know how you can add value to Warren Buffett. You can listen to him. You can listen to what he's saying, identify a need that he has. But it's Warren Buffett. He's a billionaire. Maybe he needs a rose bush tended to because he can't get down on the ground and tend to that rose bush anymore. Maybe that rose bush really has sentimental value to him because it was the first rose bush he purchased for his wife, or his wife really likes this rose bush. Maybe his wife really likes something and he doesn't have the capacity to decorate the yard in a certain way. There's always a way you can add value. You just have to be a good listener. That's the first way. Listen, and then line up what you're hearing with what you can do. Where have you added value in the past? You've always added value. I don't care if it's as simple as I took the garbage pails in for my neighbor so that they didn't have to do that. That's value. That's actually a business that a kid can start. If you have a big enough neighborhood, you go around $1 a pail. Give me $2. I'll bring the pails out on Tuesday night or Tuesday morning, and I'll put them back. Even if he did that, even if your son just did that on his walk to the bus stop for the 15 houses he has to pass to get to the bus stop. Right? That's adding value. Then those people are going to be like, I need my lawn mowed. Let me call Joey. So where have you added value in the past? What are some skills that you can deploy? We talked about AJ, my son, earlier. He said, I have the skill of figure it outable. He could figure anything out. He'll just spend days like just figuring it out. AJ, you gonna work on the differential on your car? Yeah, I'll just figure it out. It'll be all right. It'll be in the garage for a couple of days, but you don't mind, do you? Like, I guess not. But he figures stuff out. So where are your skill sets? What are you good at? Sorry about that. My thing just fell. Where are you good at that you can add value to people? What are some skills that you can develop? What are your unique abilities? I'm going to put a video right here that talks about unique abilities and runs you through an exercise so that you can identify those strengths that you have that you could start working on even more. I wrote down, give me 1 second. Sorry about the hands here, guys. I wrote down this quote by Ed Mylett. Through proximity, you absorb the traits, actions, and beliefs of the people associated with you. Consciously and unconsciously, their knowledge and ideas become part of who you are. That's the real heart of proximity. The people that you're in proximity to are going to rub off on you. Are you in the proximity of those people that are going to excel you? Remember, proximity is very powerful. Who will you allow into your proximity? Think about that. Guys, we live up top in the numerator, not down in the denominator. It's always results over excuses. Go out there today and be unstoppable and crush your day. I love spending time with you guys. Have a blessed day.